if let's say that plan is not hitting in first quarter, it didn't hit, fine, no problem, but you have actionables so that it hits in Q2. If always used to say you should always have at least 18 months of runway in your bank, otherwise it's a red alert for you. And multiple damages that can come. In fact, I can talk about one thing that suddenly happened, which was SVB collapse in the
Yep.
early part of last year.
There's a trend, or there is a sliver of something which I'm seeing. And before we started recording, we spoke about your location right now. You
Yeah.
currently in India, but you split your
Yes.
time between US and India.
Yeah.
You've done multiple pivots already in your current role. You started off with restaurant software company to building an SME business online company, then moving into a WhatsApp chat company, and then you also started Get Manifest, and getting Ashu on board, and there's that hustle space, right?
Yeah.
Which you have that hustle mentality, that hustle thought, and it's required today, and it can also burn you, right, to many
Yes.
ways, because that hustle can spread you too thin in many ways. So what's your
Yeah.
perspective about hustle, right? There's so much today in the startup community, people talk about hustle, you have to hustle, right? So what's your thought on hustling?
Yeah, Anis, I think it's the P0 thing that an entrepreneur should be ready to take up. But at the same time, hustling can be very structured, Anis. So, like, if you have, like, which, people usually call it as OKRs
Hmm.
in normal sense. And let's say if you have an annual plan, and I'm sure, you must have also prepared some resolutions while this year had started. So, if you have some annual plan, let's say, like, taking revenue from X to Y in the
Right.
year 2024, then you start thinking backward. And then when you start thinking backward, you split that plan into quarter to quarter basis. And if let's say that plan is not hitting in first quarter, it didn't hit, fine, no problem, but you have actionables so that it hits in Q2. If it
Hmm.
hasn't happened again, fine, like there is something, like there's a red alert basically, like why you planned something which you thought that can happen but didn't happen. It's a big red flag. That's when start thinking that okay, something needs to change, and it needs to be changed immediately, because you're always on a limited gas, Anis. Like, you have raised funds, you cannot keep burning it till feel okay, now I have
Yep.
tried out all things, nothing worked, I have to do something else. That can never happen. You have to use your gut, you have to use the real time data that you're seeing. Third, you
Hmm.
have to see how the market has evolved and take a decision quickly. So
Hmm.
with BIC, we pivoted from BICI to BIC when we had 80 to 90% of our funds in the bank, because that's when it felt sensible that we still have that chance to make it a big company. It's not very late, but if we would have, delayed by 6 months, 7 months, things would have looked very different. So if you have that goal in mind, I don't think hustle can keep your focus away from things. But if there is no goal, it's just like random hustling, random trying out multiple things, then things can go haywire.
Okay. So actually, just building on to one thing which you said, quarter one, quarter two, and especially in a startup, like you spoke about, if you have raised capital, there is a limited gas.
Yeah.
What is that limit of that gas? Is it 2 quarters, or is it 4 quarters, and you need to be alert on the second quarter itself? So what is that limit?
um, I think this actually was very well taught by Y Combinator. So always used to say you should always have at least 18 months of runway in your bank, otherwise it's a red alert for you. And for me, since I come from a background where my family runs a small business, that red alert is even 3.5 years. So whenever our runway goes below 3.5 years, I feel terrible. Stop to sleeping, and it feels like somewhere down the line that you have to quickly act on it. But 18 months is what usually the startup standards is in terms of
Yeah.
runway.
So
Or
when you say, yeah, so when you say 18 months or 3.5 years from your book of knowledge, that means that even if you don't get a single dollar of revenue coming into your
yeah.
bank, you can
Yeah.
still pay not only for yourself but for your employees and other statutory and regular thing for the next
Yeah.
18 months, right? That's
Yes.
that's
Yes.
what the 18
Yes.
month and the three and a
Yes.
half year.
Yes.
Now, you can always be a little bit passionate. you know Maybe my window is now 17 months, but I know my gut is saying that this still can happen. Then
Yeah.
that can become 16 months and 15 months, because you're then spending more, right? So you're taking
Yeah.
away from that reserve of 18
Yeah.
months.
Yeah.
uh, is that habit okay, and have you seen that in yourself and in others around you? Where is that limit where you have to draw the line, enough is enough, right? Because it's
Yeah.
not a gut anymore, it's not greed. it's that
Yeah.
it's a thought. It's that, I would not call it maniac, but it's that thing, you you have to stop somewhere.
Yeah, correct, Anish. So, one way to look at it is very difficult question, Anish. Like, there's always a dilemma in founder's mind because you are just seeing one side of the story. You are never
Yeah.
seeing the other angles that could be possible and multiple damages that can come. In fact, I can talk about one thing that suddenly happened, which was SVB collapse in the
Yep.
early part of last year. But yeah, coming back to your question here, uh, Anish, like if you're seeing two things, one is if you have 18 months of runway, number one is you should have investors in pipeline who could fund you on 18th month or before that. So do you have that? If the answer is no, then of course you cannot do it. If you let's say have it, then
Hmm.
second thing is you can have hundreds of investors on your pipeline, but are they really going to fund you? Then the answer depends on two things. Number one is market. Right now, market is very, very bad. Number two is, are you growing? Like, is your company actually growing 20% month over month or 30% month over month? Third is, can it become a $1 billion business? Because even if you're growing, but your TAM is small, which can be a case in Indian SaaS space, etc., then also it's difficult. So you need to have those clear understanding of the market, even though if you have investor pipeline of 100 investor, because investors to keep speaking with you, and especially during these days they are sitting very, very idle, so they have a lot of time to speak with
And there are
you.
a lot
But
of cash also, but
yeah,
they are
yeah,
being choosy about where they want to spend their
yeah.
money, right?
And also for a founder it's not a great environment to raise, because even if an investor is giving money, because you are taking a hit on dilution and valuation, honestly. Like, you can raise at a better valuation later. So these are like some things that you have to keep in mind while deciding that. But again, down the line, if your gut is saying, like, Elon Musk kept saying that their third launches failed but the fourth one took off and they were almost out of money. If your gut still says that no, Sonakshi, like, this is going to be next big thing, don't stop yourself, because at least you will not have regret in the end that you tried putting money into right R&D. But if you're spending money on just blindly on sales and marketing, not building a great product, then it's your fault. Like, you haven't taken right decisions. So that's how
Yeah.
we see it.
I hope you enjoyed this clip from my podcast series called Masters Decoded. The intention of bringing these clips to you is to allow you to understand some key moments of the conversations I've had with my guest. I would recommend and highly encourage you to listen to the entire podcast, which you can find the link to the podcast in the description below. I look forward to you subscribing to my channel and hit the bell icon so that you can be notified of all the future clips which we keep releasing every week on this channel.